Hello, welcome back to Unraveled Gaming for the evaluation of solo games experience. And this time I have a slightly offbeat game. Some Well, that was a neat video, but it dawned on me that watching me do a playthrough of a game that probably is elsewhere on the lovely internet is probably not the most beneficial thing, especially when what we're trying to do is evaluate the solo metrics. So, from this point on, I will still be playing through the games 2 to 4 times. I'm going to unbox and box the games and time how long it takes to take the game and set it up, how long it takes to reset the game, and how long it takes to rebox the game. And I'll throw in any tidbits I might have, like if I have a box that has a 3D print inside, or I bought something from uh, an insert to go in the box to make it easier, so that it's kind of fair from game to game. Some games will be easier to measure than others, but I'm just going to give my summary of the metrics. If you want to see the metrics, I've updated them a bit. They're down in the description. I didn't change much, just a few things to make it a little easier for me to language it out better and to do some of the timing. But for this video, I'm just going to talk through the most recent game I played, which was Trismegistus, and the comparison with the other games and anything that's changed as far as the overall score I've given each of them. So I've got my screen up here to the side. I'll post things on the screen here as I go along. But Trismegistus was a fantastic replay for me. I've had this game for a while in my collection environment, but as a solo, this was a lot of fun to play. I overall rated this a 3.75, so it's not quite in 4, but I could see it moving up over time. I might have to go look at it again, and if you've played Trismegistus, I would love to hear what you'd have to say in the comments. There's not a ton of folks that I see that play it. I saw a few comments on BGG, and there's just not. I don't think a lot of folks have this game or play it often if they do have it. Setup is a little complicated. It's got a lot of parts and pieces. I have a 3D printed insert from the game, so it actually is easier for me to set up than a lot of other games that have this many parts and pieces in them. So setup, I give it a 3. It doesn't have, it's not as hard to set up as some games. I would say something like Gloomhaven or Scythe are a little bit even more finicky to set up. This is not that hard. Reset is actually pretty easy for this one. Very easy reset. It takes just a matter of, I think, probably about a minute for me to reset the game from one game to the next. And I played 3 games. And I will, if I can find my scores, I'll post my scores on here. Did really, really, really super excellent the first game. Lost terribly the second game and made some critical mistakes. That's the one I had the playthrough of. If you're like, man, I really want to see your playthrough of Trismegistus, let me know. I'll post it. The cleanup on the game is roughly, it's a little easier than the setup, but not by a ton. And again, I have the 3D print stuff, so it makes it a little easier. The challenge of Trismegistus is real and is fun. And one of the things that I had to go back and evaluate the metric for in part was because there are mini games, and the next game I'm doing is going to be very similar, where they give you in the rule book, you're given a lot of options to adjust the difficulty of the AI. And Trismegistus does that. It gives you lots of options to adjust the difficulty of the AI. It gives you some options for making it harder on yourself in addition to adjusting the difficulty of the AI. I could adjust it even higher. I did everything I believe I could do in the make the AI as hard as you can column. I did not nerf myself any, I didn't make it life harder on me, but I could have done that. just by after you played a few times, it's very easy to increase that difficulty. Largely, this is really a game where you're playing against your highest score, but if you're trying to beat the AI, you can make it more challenging on yourself that way. And so I like that about the game. What's really fun about the challenge of Trismegistus is you're trying to get those manuscript script recipes, and it's not hard challenge wise to get all of your ultimate formula where you got the 7 formula pieces you're trying to put together and flip. What is really challenging is how to get the most out of the trigger ability. I know one game I played, I was able to get this artifact to trigger this artifact to trigger this artifact because it was like several, what do you call it? Like I was transmuting elements, and as I transmuted elements, one transmutation would cause another transmutation, and so forth and so on. So as long as I had the essences to spend to allow those transmutations to happen, I was great, and it got like a ton of stuff. I want to say that was my first game I played. I scored like 165 points. So that's what you're kind of going for in Trismegistus, and that's what I like about the theme of the game. You're doing alchemical experiments, and if you can play the whole game and not real, you can get a few triggers, but maybe not all the triggers you want, or not triggering as much as you want, and still have a great game. But man, there is a really neat puzzly experience about trying to get just a multitude of triggers to happen at the in the combination of just here's my main action, but then I'm also doing these bonus actions of fulfilling a formula, and then that gives you some extra things. So it's just there's lots of neat puzzly things in order to try to get those points. I rated the experience of this game and the challenge of this game at 4.25 a piece because both of them I thought were really good. It was much higher than I expected. I was not thinking this one would be real super high on the list. Setup wise, going back to some of the other games and comparing Trismegistus to them, Spirit Island is still the highest on the list of the solo games I have played thus far, and technically I was doing that before I did the solo metric. It's got a 4, I gave it a 4.0 setup. The box is very well designed. It's easy to pull out, set up the game. Even though it does have lots of pieces, they're all in their little trays in the box. It comes like that. It's fantastic. And then the challenge of Spirit Island gets a little ding because there's a certain amount of luck involved in which cards you end up drawing when you're getting your minor and major cards. And so there's a piece of that I felt was, factors into the game, makes it a little more lucky than it does strategy, although there is a ton of strategy in the game, and I would say the experience of the game, I gave it a 4.5. Very good for Spirit Island. So overall, Spirit Island scored 4.25. Very good game to play solo. Lots of options, and that's part of the experience. Is there are just 8 spirits, I think 8, maybe it's 10 spirits in the opening box for you to play with. Even if you have no expansions, I don't have any expansions for Spirit Island, but man, you have 8 spirits, and you can every spirit is a different experience to play from the solo perspective. Parks is next up. It got a 3.25 overall. I felt like the challenge was a little bit kind of on the lower end, a lot of luck involved in that one. It's a neat game, it's fun, a little bit of a Zen-like experience, but not as high on the list. Call to Adventure, I gave a 3.0. Again, good game. Setup is easy, so setup is what scored the highest for that one. Challenge and experience, 2.75 apiece. It doesn't blow my mind. It's really better as a multiplayer experience, I think, much more so than a solo experience, unless you just like telling stories to yourself. And then, great solo experience. I'd give it a tick up if that's what you're looking for. Dinosaur Island is 3.0. It's kind of tied there. Setup is 2.75. Very lot of setup on the front end, easy reset. Putting away is probably the worst for Dinosaur Island. Man, that game is a beast to put away, especially because I have the Totally Liquid expansion, and so there's a few parts and pieces I have to navigate there. Challenge, okay, 2.75. Experience, pretty fun. I like dinosaurs, so I'm probably a sucker for the dinosaur theme. So I gave it a little tick up on that, and it's really kind of a neat puzzly experience trying to figure out how to go about getting your park, get the most points out of your park. So I think the experience overall is not too bad. Friday, highest score for setup, 4.25. Man, Friday sets up quick and easy. Honestly, for the game you get out of it, setup is great. Challenge 1.75, lots of luck, lots of it's an okay challenge, but it's not like overly compelling. You got to kind of be in the mood for it. Experience is about the same, 2.0 on that, 2.5 overall. So that's sort of my run through of games. In the future videos, I probably won't give a full game run through like that. I might just compare it to the one up over and above it, and then I'll try to find a place to post my overall game scores, what I have scored thus far with all the games I've reviewed as I shift them around on my list here. But next time we're going to look at, I set up Maracaibo. That's the next one on the list for the solo experience. We'll see how that goes. And thanks if you've sat through some of the other videos. That's great. If you really wanted to play through, tell me in the comments. I'll post it. Otherwise, I hope this is beneficial and gives you a good idea of the different solo games and some of the parts and pieces that go into how I'm measuring that. So until next time, thanks for joining me for Unraveled Game Thoughts today, and have a great afternoon.